Kia ora and welcome to CIO Leadership Live New Zealand. I'm Kathy O'Sullivan, Editorial Director for Foundry in Australia and New Zealand. My guest today is Katie McDiarmid, Chief Information Officer at New Zealand Media and Entertainment Group. Tanakwe, Katie, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Kathy. It's wonderful to be with you.
Great stuff. And look, I'll always love to hear about CIO's origin stories. So can you tell us a bit about how you got your own start in technology and your career to date?
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to describe it as one of the best accidents really that happened for me in my career. So I came out of university not really knowing which direction I wanted to go in, but I was just hooked by this particular job advert that I saw, which was for the very, very early days of the internet, where the company in question was looking for people to come and help sell internet access to small businesses. And so it really was very emerging days of the internet era as we know it today. And I feel really lucky in some respects that that timing was as it was, but that gave me the stepping stone. And again, I'm not sure if I necessarily thought that that was a career in technology at the time. All I knew was that it gave me the opportunity to talk with people and learn new things. And, I still have some really strong memories of some of those sessions with really clever architects at the time that were trying to explain, or were explaining, how the internet effectively was, or the opportunities that it was unlocking for businesses. And, from there, I moved through what were sales roles initially, then into more high value account management roles, and then moved from there into more of the delivery side of the business. So that was my transition. And through that time, there were quite a few key milestones, but a couple of the things that really stand out for me were working with the AA, the Automobile Association in the UK, and where we built out the first online map and travel portal for the UK, which, if you think back now how ingrained that is into our everyday lives, that's pretty significant. And then working with Cable and Wireless, where we had to manage a massive email migration, where I really learnt the ropes, as it were, around really thorough project delivery. And the capabilities that you need to bring together all different teams and functions and features. So, that was really the key, the journey for me into those technology leadership roles. But it came about in quite an interesting way.
So your path has led you to New Zealand, and you have been appointed as NZME's CIO, which I understand is a newly created role. So tell us a bit about NZME, especially for those listening overseas who may not know about NZME and what you and your team are responsible for.
Right. So NZME is New Zealand Media and Entertainment. It is a media business with multiple brands, really focused in publishing and audio, and then our real estate pillar, which is OneRoof. There are many brands that interconnect audiences with their advertisers, depending on the channel and the format, whether it's print or digital or video. So it's a pretty dynamic industry to be in. I joined NZME in 2016 as a project consultant at the time, and got involved in the digital part of their business as we were driving our new digital ventures out to market. So there were a number of different strategies that we were working with at that point to really provide new revenue streams to the business. So I joined in 2016, and then once those new digital products had gone to market, I moved into more of a business operational role to really establish our ways of working with the new digital ventures. And in some cases, we were trying to set the business operations up as if these were startups within the wider enterprise. So I spent some time there, and then in 2020, I became GM Digital Products. that was, I'm sure we all remember 2020. That was, of course, bang in the middle of COVID. And I feel really humbled in many respects, actually, to have that opportunity at that moment in time, because we all know how challenging it was. But for me, that was a real stepping stone into this leadership role that I have now. And so then most recently have become CIO. It is a new role where we are effectively responding to the next wave of technology evolution and the advancement throughout the business. And so it brings the digital teams and the core technology teams together, looking for opportunities to collaborate more, thinking about the future of content convergence, and then also really leaning into the role that AI will play, whether that's at an enterprise capability base level, or whether that's much deeper in certain areas, as it actually already is today in parts of our business. So that's the rationale and the why. It's still very early days and on that journey, but I guess that gives us the context for the opportunity.
Indeed. And as you said, you've spent several years with NZME now, and with you leading that digital products team as GM, tell us a bit about what some of those achievements were during your tenure in that role.
Right, yeah. So for me, as I reflect on that time, really there were a couple of major shifts. Firstly, we've made some really significant technology advancements, and some of them have required pretty bold and big technology projects or digital technology products, where we have rolled out completely new capabilities to the way that the newsroom work. And the newsroom is a 24/7 operation. It reminds me of times working with the NHS in the UK, where there is no good moment in time to transition to a new system. And the team, and I give credit to many other people for this, but in this time we've transitioned to a completely new content management system, and that required taking 300 journalists who could not put their ways, their day-to-day activities down for training and so on, but really needed to lean into this new capability. So we've made that shift. We have really led the way in personalization and the way that we're thinking about personalization. And most recently, we've made another significant shift in our technology stack for the digital products as well, so that we can really start to be much more dynamic about the subscription offers that we put in front of our customers. So that has required us getting to a really good operating model. So that would be, I think, for me, the biggest achievement as overall, is really working out how the digital teams can best operate, so that we're working on the highest priority items, also that we're giving people a real sense of purpose in their day-to-day work, and that people feel that it's within a framework of good controls and governance. And so we've just really had to shift the way that we plan and prioritize, so that you can have those conversations and it's not just a kind of constant battle back and forth of tension. So operating model and those key strategic projects would be the summary of those achievements.
And in your new role, Katie, you've mentioned that AI is very much on the radar. So how do you see AI and Gen AI, impacting NZME, and how do you think it can create value for the business and your audience and customers?
On every single level, but also, we all need to determine where we spend our effort and where we don't get distracted. So having a really clear view of how we have those priority conversations, and we don't just go off kind of chasing, ideas. So, for a media business, clearly, number one is how do we create content? So whether that is to support the content creation process. So today we have an AI editor tool that is supporting the newsroom to make sure that, they've got good headlines, that they've got good, clearly good grammar, that they've got summaries where they need them. So content creation at that level to support it. And then in other cases where it makes sense to fully create, but with human oversight, beautiful campaigns and marketing assets. So, big use cases across the board there. The next layer for us is, of course, how we can personalize and how we can be really clear on specific audience segments and what they might need, and how we're driving a slightly more tailored experience to different audiences. And there'll be a lot more that we do in that space. And then, of course, behind the scenes, efficiency for many, many teams, or almost probably all teams, but also one area for us that many of us are really using AI is that thought leadership partnership as well, and just having an ability to think something through, challenge it, look for a different perspective. And I'm working with all the teams around the business around those key use cases of how will AI support you as a creator, a strategist, and as your assistant. They're really the three main areas.
So that brings me nicely to asking more around, how you manage those conversations internally and externally with your stakeholders about the use of AI. There's definitely some, I would term it, cautious curiosity around AI in this region. So what kind of conversations are you having?
Yeah, I think we are clear on our guardrails. We are clear, and you have to be as much as you would be with anything else. And so I do say around caution as well. Ultimately, we need to think about this as a tool. And so where will we use a tool, and what with the right oversights? It's the same mindset effectively to that. So giving our teams the right guardrails, also helping teams work through how they might approach it. So, for example, I spent some time with one of the sales, a group of sales team last week, where they're an ideas group. They have many different ideas, but actually you need to categorize these things. You need to know where to start. There's no point going too big and blue sky. I mean, sometimes that's a great thing, but ultimately, if you're thinking about how you're going to take people on the journey, you need to give people a framework around that. We have put together, again, it sounds obvious, but training and tools together. You can't have one without the other. There's no point us running a training program if we don't give people the tools at the same time. And likewise, if we're rolling anything out for different teams, we're wanting to make sure it's done at a functional level. What does this particular team need versus a blanket approach? And then, of course, also having the clear conversations around the benefits. Why are we putting another cost effectively into the business with, even just the use of the tools or other bespoke builds? What's the outcome? Is it more revenue? Is it increased audience engagement? Is it increased efficiency? And we need to be clear on that. So at a board and an exec level, we have put together an overarching scorecard that brings together those benefits, so that the exec and the board can also believe in why and then how we will track, and we can have those conversations around where we focus our efforts and where we don't.
Yeah, technology has had such an impact on the media industry. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes with AI. Is there any other potential or use cases that you're looking at for other emerging technology in the organization, or anything that you're particularly excited about coming down the line?
I think the things that I am curious about, I certainly don't have the answers to, is in this particular space, is what the emerging trends will be for our end user devices. So our phones, our tablets, of course, our laptops, but any other end user devices, and what that means for content consumption. So how will our smartphones evolve? Of course, they will have AI enabled throughout them, but what else will that mean for consumers? And then building on from that, I think the other emerging technology that has been around for a while, but I think now might have its real moment in the sun, is augmented reality. And again, if you're thinking about how the business of news and content is delivered for the right type of content, I think augmented reality plays a really powerful role in that. If you can start to really bring something to life and then put the consumer or the audience in control of how they interact with that and how they understand what might be going on in a certain situation. So they'd be the two things I think that stand out the most for me. There are others, but ultimately, yeah, I think just they're the two that I'm most curious about.
So then, Katie, tell us, what role do partnerships with the likes of MSPs or technology vendors play in your tech strategy? And what does a good partnership look like to you? How do you decide when you're going out to market who's worth partnering with and on what?
Yeah, it's they're really important, and I think on a personal level, then I know they're even more important to me personally now in this role, where I want to make sure that I'm continuously learning and connected to what the opportunities might be in different industries and different verticals, and potential opportunities. So they're really 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 valuable. We always I think we would classify our vendors in two categories. Of course, there are the real in-depth partnerships, and then more of the general utility providers. And so, if I really focus in on the partnerships, we want it to be a two-way conversation. We want them to really understand what we're trying to achieve, and then, and where it makes sense, to really challenge us on the approach that we might be taking. So is there another way? Is there a proof of concept that perhaps they could support us with? Again, what other partners do they have, or customers do they have that maybe we can talk to? Most MSPs will have access to those innovation hubs and or different sessions and leadership discussions. So I'm certainly spending more time having those conversations and looking at how I can then connect the subject matter experts in their teams with those in my team here.
And just speaking of your team, then, I mean, how do you approach getting the best out of them, making them feel they're engaged and growing in their roles? Tell us about your approach to team leadership.
So I think being really clear that everyone has a different set of motivations is a really important starting point, and then building trust and transparency. I really truly believe in, of course, creating cross-functional teams where it makes sense, decentralizing decision making where it makes sense, and then really empowering small groups to really drive their own roadmaps and their own outcomes, as long as, of course, everyone is comfortable and clear what the guardrails are, what types of decisions need to come to a more centralized function. So yeah, trust and transparency, and building an operating model that enables those types of conversations. And then with the team, building a diverse way of thinking. And so that might be just how we approach problems, how we mix up the teams from time to time, how we pair people together, but really creating that diversity of thought is really, really valuable. And then certainly from my perspective as a leader, I know that I am absolutely indebted to the people that are in my team, who are those who are, you know, able to really drive things forward. So really doing what I can to support them and asking them directly how I can help them is fundamental to that.
So you spoke about the importance of diversity of thought, and look, IT has had a problem in terms of attracting different minds of all kinds to consider technology as a career. So what can we do better in terms of attracting people into the industry and thinking about technology as a career?
So one thing that we're finding works incredibly well is working with the universities on their graduate programs, and that is a pretty informal approach that we have here at NZME, but we've had huge success with that, and that really has lent itself to much more of a diverse team here at NZME. But I do think that it is around giving people and presenting, as we do, a really flexible workplace. And so, yes, COVID has been a big part of that. I think that really unlocked an opportunity for us in many respects around flexibility of in-office days, the type of work, the way that the cross-functional teams were working. But again, that has really enabled us to become an employee that I think offers real flexibility and diversity as a result of that, and that enables much more of an unrepresented group to come forward, because they know that that will make it much more viable for them.
And what are the skills that you think, you know, will be more in demand in the next 5 years?
So for me, this is interesting. Certainly, there are really strong technology skills that we need to really lean into, and so yes, AI clearly is fundamental to that, as is that real strong understanding of data itself and how to protect it, how to leverage it, how to monetize it, etc. But actually, for me, I think that there is an even stronger place for that strong analytical mind, communication skills, empathy, you know, all of the core skills that are really about bringing people and teams and decisions and technologies all together for those discussions around what the opportunities are. Those skills are even more important than ever as we look at much more of an AI-enabled landscape. So yeah, I think it's exciting, certainly from someone who was not a technologist in the past, that actually I think this next wave brings even more of those skill sets to the fore as well.
Yeah, certainly seeing that from a lot of CIOs, underlying the importance of those soft skills in the years ahead. So then, Katie, just to wrap up, tell us about the next months ahead. Are there any exciting initiatives in the pipeline for you and the team at NZME?
Always exciting initiatives in the pipeline. So we are coming off the back of pretty major projects. So we will be, in some cases, allowing the teams to really reset and then start planning ahead into next year. At a strategic level, we have a long-range plan that we're kind of fleshing out and really challenging ourselves on around what at a company level, what we really truly believe the next key horizons will be. And we're building out our strategic roadmap aligned to that, and trying to understand the key business value priorities and being really clear on what the top priorities are and where we need to, where we need to just park things for a while. And so we see a really strong opportunity for us in audio video convergence and the convergence of that full experience. I think up until recent history, the way that you consume content has always been either audio or written or video, and now we're just going to see that all kind of come together, and our audiences will just want to pick and choose at any moment in time how they're consuming content. So that is one key area that we think we know we will prioritize, and we need to understand how we might do that. And then, of course, a wider AI enablement. So we're looking at all of our enterprise systems and making sure that they are AI enabled at every single level. So that's pretty key for us. And then amongst all of that, really leveraging the capabilities and the assets that we have, just to give ourselves, the best innovation opportunity that we have off the back of that.
Well, there's never a dull day in the media industry, and we will watch with interest and wish you all the best with the role ahead. Katie McDermott, Chief Information Officer at NZME, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Kathy.